Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, May 10th. Board of Commissioners meeting, City of Madeira Beach. Welcome, everyone. Could we have an invocation by the City Attorney?
Our Heavenly Father, thank you for the men and women who serve our community and for their families. Please provide our leaders with reminders each day of why they decided to dedicate their lives to public service and use that commitment to encourage them. Give them peace when their work takes them away from their families. We also ask you to draw near to them and give them the wisdom on how best to support one another in their deliberations. And this we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Rostek,
Present.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks. Here. Commissioner Taglerini will not be present.
Thank you. All right, approval of the agenda. I think there's one change there. We want to move in agenda item 12C. Let's see, right underneath the consent agenda, I believe, under number 8. Was that correct, City Manager?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the first thing we have are proclamations. And the first one is for National Public Works Week. National Public Works Week proclamation, May 21st to 27th, 2023, connecting the world through public works. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure facilities and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida. And whereas infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canada Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, James Jim Rostek, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, do hereby designate the week, May 21st through 27th, 2023, as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, to be affixed this 10th day of May 2023. Would you like to say a few words, too?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next is National Safe Boating Week. National Safe Boating Week, May 20th through May 26, 2023. For nearly 90 million Americans, boating continues to be a popular recreational activity. From coast to coast and everywhere in between, people are taking to the water and enjoying time together, boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. During National Safe Boating Week, we want to bring special attention to this pastime and remind recreational boaters of a few tips to ensure that they and their loved ones are safe and responsible while exploring our nation's waterways. Proper planning for a day of boating begins even before leaving home and getting a free vessel safety check. Take a safe boating course at the beginning of the boating season, filing a float plan with a trusted family member or friend, and checking the weather before boating are key steps to enjoy boating. Everyone should always wear a United States Coast Guard approved life jacket while boating. Drowning remains the #1 cause of death for recreational boaters each year, and most drowning victims in recreational boating accidents are not wearing a life jacket. Safe and responsible boating includes never operating a boat while under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or knowing basic navigation rules. National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters to have a safer, more fun experience out on the water. Whereas, on average, 700 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., approximately 3/4 of these fatalities are caused by drowning. The vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning would be alive today had they worn their life jacket. And whereas to combat these statistics, the National Safe Boating Council, in partnership with the United States Coast Guard and the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, will launch the annual North American Safe Boating Campaign during National Safe Boating Week. The campaign is designed to reach more than 70 million boaters around North America and communicates this year's life-saving message: boat smart, boat safe, wear it, and now therefore, I, Jim Rostek, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, do hereby support the goals of the North American Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 20th through the 26th of 2023 as National Safe Boating Week, and urge all boaters to boat smart, boat safe, and wear it. Proclaimed this 10th day of May 2023.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you. I'm the flotilla commander for Flotilla 7-8, and we go from Clearwater Pass to Egmont Key, and that's a lot of water and a lot of recreational boaters, and we're constantly busy. I want to introduce Brenda Berger is our staff officer for our IS staff officer, and we have Charles Lambert hiding back here. He is our unit coordinator for the Coast Guard with Air Station Clearwater and the auxiliary. He puts everything together. One quick thing, everybody asks us, what does the auxiliary do? Well, in 3 words, we sum it up: we save lives. That's really what it amounts to. Every day or every week, you hear about 60% of it with the news. The other 30, 40, you don't hear about it because you really don't want to know how many jumpers we have on the Skyway and how many things are coming in the Egmont Key, coming in the Tampa port. And what we do is we're involved in helping the Coast Guard in doing search and rescues, doing missions, doing radio work, and our own boats are out if you see us at Johns Pass constantly. With that, I would like to present to the City of Madeira Beach United States Coast Guard Auxiliary Certificate of Appreciation presented to the City of Madeira Beach for outstanding cooperation and assistance in furthering the purposes and principles of the United States Coast Guard. 10th day of May, Flotilla Commander. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for helping us out here, because we've been out here a long time. I think our facility's been in Madeira Beach since about 1954.
Get a picture of you guys. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Okay. Thank you.
Ron,
Appreciate it.
Ron, we need to be sure we thank the staff for their continuing support.
Well, I saw a lot of smiling and nodding, and I appreciate it. I'm kind of new. I've been a commander for about 4 or 5 years, and we just absorbed and got larger with Madeira Beach. And so I'm learning my way around and learning my way through the system. But we enjoy and really appreciate all the service, particularly Madeira Beach. I've learned when I took over the facility over here that how much help and service you all give us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commission, just to add, on Saturday, May 20th, the Madeira Beach Coast Guard Auxiliary will be holding free vessel safety checks for recreational boaters, free of charge at the Madeira Beach Marina. So May 20th from 8 a.m. till noon, and that's Saturday.
Or longer, we'll be there.
Or longer.
Once needed.
We very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Next up is public comment. Public participation is encouraged. Please come up to the podium if you'd like to speak. Do not include anything that is on the current agenda that will allow discussion at that time. Does anybody have any public comment at this time? Okay. All right, next is the consent agenda. I think we want to do item 12C here. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
It would be after you approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I approve. You have a second?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, so I guess first item up then is going to be item 12C.
And Mayor and Commission, this is to appoint an alternate to the Gulf Beaches Public Library Board. We have one applicant, Mr. John Hendricks.
City Manager, after we had published the agenda, we received one more
We
application.
have
that the
a second
commission can
applicant,
accept from Jerry Cantrell.
two applicants.
We're open for discussion.
Robin, so
Yes.
Jerry applied for the library position
I
in
am
addition
unaware of
to
that
the-
one. I think it would
in
speak with the
addition-
clerk
sorry,
to what
In
happened.
addition to the Civil Service Commission?
Correct.
Okay.
It's committees that one person can serve on both. It's up to the commission what to do.
How about if Mr. Cantrell will serve on the civil service, and he would be amicable to that, use him in that capacity if he would like that, and Mr. Hendricks on the library?
Well, I wouldn't want to vote on that now because
Okay.
I have questions about the civil service, so it's,
Yeah, you're only on this item for
Right.
the library board alternate.
Okay.
So with two applicants for this particular, two candidates for this position, you can, someone can either make a motion to appoint one or the other, or we could do a ballot vote and hand them out, and you can vote for whoever you would like, and then at the end of the vote, city clerk will tally them up and tell you what the votes were.
so can we do either or should we do the tallied votes?
You can do either or, whatever is whatever you'd like to do.
I would make a motion to approve Mr. Hendricks as the library alternate.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Before we vote, does either applicant
Would they
want
like to talk?
to speak? Has it been invited to speak?
You can do that, Mayor, it's.
Sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Hendricks, would you like to talk to us?
Sure. John Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road, Madeira Beach. You may not be aware, when I came into office, the library board consisted of 10 people. you can't have a board and have uneven number of people on it, because if you have a tie, there's no tiebreaker. So I had discussions with other cities, with other mayors, and we redid the interlocal agreement. That's why it is down to 5. It also was discussed that it should be an elected official. Doesn't have to be, but I have full knowledge of everything that has been going on with the library. The very first budget that was presented to us when I was in office called for $93,000 contribution from the city of Madeira Beach. I'll make it a short story, but through negotiations and redoing the interlocal agreement, this year, I believe our contribution will be $63,000. On top of that, the $1 million reserves that they had, that's part of what that money was going for, was they were going to put another $50,000 into a CD. They already had over $450,000 in CDs. And they were stashing their bank account rather than fixing the library up. So in the past 3 years, these are things that have happened. A new roof has been put on, new AC has been put in, the bathrooms have been remodeled, new furniture is in there, new computers are in there, and I want to see the library continue to move forward. That's why I put in for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. So let's see, I have over 20 years experience in corporate America where we look at key performance indicators. A lot of times referred to as management by business objectives, where you look at your viabilities, your threats, things that actually will help you perform better for your community in this case, or in a business. I can tell you that part of the organization I worked for when I was with Siemens Medical Solutions, it's one of the top 3 medical manufacturers in the United States for medical imaging equipment. GE Electric, in all honesty, is the number 1 for the United States. Siemens Medical is the number 1 for the world, but they're not number 1 in the United States. And I worked for Siemens. And the area that I was responsible for, I was able to, the first year that I was in a position as senior manager of field engineering, I was able to grow the business by $6 million. That was profit. By the 3rd year, I had grown it by $20 million in profit, and they split the region up because they realized it had grown too much. They brought me down to Florida. I started working here. Things happen in life. I needed to leave that career, and if you guys want to talk about that, we'll talk about another time. But that's not part of this. But as things go on, I went and became director of customer support for a company called Medical Education Technologies Incorporated. Again, working on key performance indicators. You look at what is the viability of the business? What are the threats to the business? How do you make sure that you continue to grow it and make sure it's applicable across everything you're trying to do? Take that, move forward in how I ended up in education. I first started teaching at USF whenever I was working on my PhD. Then after working on that, I ended up falling in love with teaching and ended up working at a middle school, now at a high school. But based on the state of Florida requirements, I have to have a library that's on record. So all the books that are inside of my class, which I have over 200 books in my class for students to read, have to be inventoried. I have to make sure that I maintain those, that I have access for students to technologies, and to continue to grow their knowledge base and making sure things are available that they have to have so that way they have access to information. One of the things that could be important in this is that I, as being part of the top 10 teachers for the Pinellas County school system, which is out of 8,000 teachers, I was selected as one of 1,000 teachers that will now go on to Washington, D.C. I'll do that on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I'm going up there to talk about STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. In that respect, we start talking to Congress. We're going to be lobbying with Congress to tell them, hey, these are the things we need. Again, what is it we need for access to information? So I do have a relationship with media. I understand it. So I hope that's enough to help you guys convince that I'm a good candidate for this. One other thing I'd like to say is, it took me a while to figure out that this was available. I didn't know this position was available. I don't know if this has actually been posted to the community. So I would ask that of you. Has it been posted to the community so you've gotten all the applicants you could possibly get? Even though I'd love to be in it, I don't know if it's fairly posted, and that's just a question.
Thank you. City Clerk, has it been posted, and what was the date of posting?
This particular appointment has not been posted. They just learned about it at the recent commission meeting, and so I received 2 applications based on that. Well, at the workshop, you talked about it at the workshop.
Okay,
It's been
thank you.
discussed at several meetings up
Yeah.
here. And this is the first time, to my knowledge, that we've actually gone through this process for the alternate
It is.
for the library board, because it was just, as John Hendricks stated, it was just redone last year, or right before I arrived. But going forward, we will follow our normal process.
I guess next is public comment on this. Do we have any public comment? Okay, back to the commissioners. Your pleasure.
Seems like we have 2 very good candidates. It'll be a tough decision, I don't know.
I vote for Hendricks.
Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Would you please call the roll, City Clerk?
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Mayor Rostex.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Okay, next up is item B, W&A Third Amendment for cleaning services. Or wait a minute, we've got to back up approval of minutes, I guess.
We did that under the consent agenda. It
We
was
did,
approved.
okay. All right, so then it's WA Third Amendment for cleaning services. I guess this is what, the second reading now?
So this was included in the consent agenda, it was already approved.
Okay.
So we just need to move on to item number 9, public hearings, and start going through A through H.
Okay, hey.
Okay.
I guess Ms. Rowan.
So I need to read this ordinance by title only, if I can go ahead and do that. So this is ordinance 2023-09, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Section 86-144 notification of Article 4 Development Agreements of Chapter 86 Administration of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Madeira Beach to provide for notice by U.S. mail to all property owners within 300 feet in any direction of property which is the subject of a public hearing considering an application to enter into, amend, or revoke a development agreement, providing that notices shall be posted by the Community Development Department, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-09 by title only.
Thank you. This ordinance is pretty straightforward. It expands the distance of mailed public notices from 200 to 300 feet of the subject property for entering into, amending, or revoking a development agreement. The ordinance also clarifies that the Community Development Department will post and mail the public notice when the development agreement goes before the Planning Commission. Staff and Planning Commission recommends approval.
Commissioner comments?
We should open up to the public for public comments.
first?
It's a public hearing? Yes.
Public comment on this first?
Okay.
Okay. Commissioners?
This makes perfect sense to me. The more input, the better, and staff recommends it. It should be a slam dunk.
I agree.
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-09, increase in notice requirements for development agreement applications.
I'll second that.
I agree.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rosteck.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Okay, next is ordinance 2023-10.
Mayor, Commissioners, ordinance 2023-10, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending sections 110-531, 110-533, and 110-539 of Article 6, Supplementary District Regulations of Chapter 110 Zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Madeira Beach to refer to the city's fees and collections procedure manual for the cost of an alcoholic beverage permit application fee, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2023-10 by title only.
This ordinance is also quite straightforward. It removes the exact fee amount for alcoholic beverage applications from the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances. Instead, the city's fee and collection procedures manual will determine the cost of an alcoholic beverage permit application. Staff and Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thank you. Do we have public comment on this? Okay. Commissioner comments?
Again, I think this is just a straightening up of our books. All fees go into one fee section versus into each individual code that can cause chaos.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-10, amendment to, is it chapter 110, alcoholic beverage permit application fee.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
Motion carried 4-0.
Okay, next is ordinance 2023-12.
This is ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending section 82-2 definitions of chapter 82 general provisions of the city's land development code to revise the definition of portable sign, making related findings, providing for codification, severability, and for an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance 2023-12 by title only.
This ordinance updates the definition of portable signs to follow the Federal Appeals Court ruling from LaCroix v. Town of Fort Myers Beach. The case ruled that it is a First Amendment right for citizens to be able to carry non-commercial speech signs in public areas such as sidewalks and parks. This ordinance clarifies that a sign not bearing a commercial message, which is carried by a person, shall not be considered a prohibited portable sign. These signs shall be permitted to be carried in any location such person is otherwise lawfully allowed to be present, including the city's sidewalks and parks. Planning Commission and staff recommends approval.
Do we have public comment on this? If so, please come forward. Okay, thank you. Commissioners?
I agree that this is a good change, so
Do we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to ordinance 2023-12, amendment to the LDR definition of portable signs.
Do we have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, next up is ordinance 2023-13.
Ordinance 2023-13, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, creating Division 15 of Article 6 of Chapter 110 zoning of the land development regulations of the City of Madeira Beach concerning rental of residential amenities, providing for codification, severability, and for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2023-13 by title only.
This ordinance prohibits the owner or authorized agent of an owner or of a residential property from renting or leasing any amenity, feature, or structure other than a dwelling. The ordinance defines amenity, feature, or structure as including but not limited to sheds, garages, driveway, rooftops, attics, pools, spas, saunas, putting greens, sports, courts, gazebos, or front, rear, or side yards. Commercial and other areas in Madeira Beach that currently allow for renting or leasing recreational or event facilities would not be affected by this ordinance. The Planning Commission and staff recommends approval.
Do we have public comment on this? step up to the podium, sir. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Jerry Cantrell, 13322 First Street East. Does this include boat docks? It does not? Or does it? Because the
does
way it
not.
reads, I don't know. That's, because my only concern is that I know there are people, if they have long-term rentals for boat docks, they should be able to do that. But if it's like bed and boat dock, I don't think that's right. So it's, I just am concerned the way it reads. Does that prohibit it? I don't know.
You want to address that?
We do have a section in our code, section 78-36, that regulates the rental of docks, and docks in R1 and R2 as well.
Well, we lost our screens. Okay, so we've had citizen input. Commissioners.
So we discussed this in the workshop. I think we all agreed that this was a good change, and that the concern that came up in the workshop over the boat dock rentals would be addressed under a different ordinance, and that we would discuss that separately. So
If I might, Jenny, can it specifically exclude boat docks, and that would be addressed, or make reference to where that is addressed? I don't know if you can make reference to where it's addressed, but you could just cite it, something that was interesting.
So you would change the language to not include docks?
I would just specifically put it in there so that we don't come back years
Okay.
later and it's stated, because right in the introduction there, it says restrictions, renting or leasing any amenity, feature, or structure other than a dwelling, period. And that is, I know that's not part of the ordinance, it's just a description in the background section, but I'd like to see something in there that specifically states that boat
rental
docks
of
are
docks.
addressed in a different section. I don't know how I don't know how to wordsmith it. So
Okay.
I lean on you for that.
Okay, that is
But
fine.
can we
do
make
that.
a motion and vote on that with that?
Well, I think you're going to
Explanation.
confuse it further. This is pretty clear that it's the residential amenities as defined in the ordinance, nothing to do with boat docks. If you would like to add it, I'd defer to our attorney, but from my perspective, I just think it would further create some misunderstanding going forward, but, because this has nothing to do with docks.
So I don't want to confuse anything, because part of why we're going back and revisiting the ordinances with the city is to clean up bad verbiage and to clean up confusion.
What do you think?
So normally, when we look at ordinances and we're applying or enforcing ordinances, the more specific language in the code would be controlling over more general language. Since it's not specifically included in the list of what is an amenity, feature, or structure, it wouldn't necessarily be included, because that would be a general term, and you have another provision in your code that specifically references docks. That's the specific term. So it's not necessary to be here, but if you want us to wordsmith it, we'd be happy to do that. I don't think that it's necessary because it's included in another portion of your code.
Is it easy to bring that up on the screen so we can verify exactly what it says?
So Jenny, do you have that code
For,
provision?
for section 78-36, the docking limitations, I have it printed out.
If I might, in the red bold portion, section 110-610, residential amenities, rentals prohibited, it specifically says, the owner or authorized agent of an owner of residential property is prohibited from renting or leasing or listing on any online marketplace for rent or lease an amenity, feature, and structure other than a dwelling, detached dwelling, dwelling unit, or accessory dwelling appurtenance to or associated with such residential property, regardless of the purpose or length of time of said rental or
It's
lease.
also up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm thinking out loud, I'm sorry. Whether it would be appropriate to put boat dock in there or not.
Well, looking at the docking limitations, the only limitation I see here is the boat's not for hire. There's no time constraints on it. If we're looking at trying to stop short-term stuff, I don't see any language in there that supports that at all. Or long-term, it's just, it's non-specific. It just says boat not for hire, boats clean, odor-free, boats used full-time for commercial purposes may not be fueled or loaded or unloaded at its residential dock. No more than one commercial boat may be docked. And then you can't have who rent 3 or more slips shall obtain a business tax receipt. And obviously the other restrictions of it can't, 25% of the navigable waterway, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, the bottom line is, what do we want to try to control? Is it a short-term rental? Is it,
Again, that would be in a separate ordinance.
That's a separate,
That would
yeah,
be
separate
something
meeting.
totally separate.
exactly,
Yeah.
I think we should,
I'm kind of leaning towards the staff recommendations now that we have the attorney recommendation that we just leave it as written.
Okay.
So
if we have problems down the road, they can be addressed down the road.
as long as it's, and, you know, you have a separate ordinance for residential boat docks. So
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Oh, I need to know what the motion is.
Oh,
I'd
God.
like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-13, LDC rental of residential amenities.
Thank you.
And I will second that.
Thank you. City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, now we're up to, let's see here, residential amenities. So now we're up to ordinance 2023-15, comprehensive plan activity center definition.
I'll go ahead and read the ordinance. This is ordinance 2023-15, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the City of Madeira Beach to establish a land use category for activity center, repealing ordinance 2022-03, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date thereof. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-15 by title only.
Okay, ordinance 2023-15 creates the Activity Center Future Land Use category in the Madeira Beach Comprehensive Plan. This is consistent with the countywide rules. No specific property or location is associated with this text change. The amendment adds a category of use to the community can choose when updating its plan and map in the future. Adopting the Activity Center designation for a specific property or area requires a separate land use map amendment and the adoption of regulating policies for an activity center. Planning Commission and staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Do we have public comment on this? Please step forward.
Jerry Cantrell, 13322 First Street East. I'm going to go back to a prior statement I made. It's prior to you guys being on the commission. I know that information's been put out for people to be able to come to meetings to actually understand what's going on with the Johns Pass Activity Center. I am absolutely certain it was not effectively communicated. If you can look at your records right now, and I think in a past meeting, and Mr. Gomez, if you could correct me, I think there was a letter from 19 businesses indicating that they were all for the Johns Pass Activity Center to move forward. It's something like that, I can't remember.
It's not,
But it's, okay, but it's, what you're doing is you're taking language from that to move forward so you can prepare this designation, but yet you haven't communicated with the residents. The thing is, you have 143 residents that have actually sent you information. One person's approved it, 6 of them don't know. I think the balance is 136. I could be wrong on that math. All right, I think the balance of 136 are saying no. The problem is that they don't understand what it's about. You had one meeting. You had one meeting for business, one meeting for residents. That was held in different meetings. Say, hey, we're communicating this. One meeting is not enough for 4,000 people. And I can simply state that based upon things I have to do. I work for public, all right? I have a responsibility to make sure students do certain things. Say I have 4,000 students. I don't, but say I do hypothetically. Say I have 4,000 students, but only 3 of them come to do a task that they have to do. Is it my responsibility to go back and re-communicate and make sure that these students are accomplishing what they have to do? Make sure that they understand what they have to do? Understand what's going on? Or do I say I communicated and therefore it's done? I can tell you that it wouldn't fly. And I don't think this is going to fly. You have the community telling you in certain communications here that they're not ready for this. You need to back up. I think even the Fort Pinella says you have 180 days you can respond on. If you write them a letter saying, hey, we're doing this, it should be okay. You should be able to pause this, reach out to the community, and get the information and feedback that you need. You haven't done it. This commission has not done it. I know you guys are new, but it hasn't done it. So.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this? Please step forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. So my understanding is this is just adding another category, right? We're not speaking of a specific property, anything happening. Resident and small business owner here in degree in urban planning. This makes perfect sense to provide additional flexibility for the city to be able to look at this and say, hey, doesn't quite fit in the existing categories. Whatever comes in the future, this gives us the opportunity to say, hey, let's fit this here and make it work right. So I would support this amendment.
Sir, can you give us your name and address, please?
Yes. Jeff Arnold, 13195 Gulf Lane.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this? Please come up. Commissioners?
So I agree, this is nothing more than adding a definition. So we're not voting on anything today to do with the activity center that has been presented in the past. And we're voting to add this. And we've been guided by the county as to what the verbiage needs to be.
The ordinance, there's no specific property or location is associated with this text change. So the board has previously voted to add the activity center designation. This is just a redo of that after the county has provided comment, correct?
This is a redo of just adding that category.
Just adding the category.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with Johns Pass Village.
That's correct.
that's correct.
You read, or if you just do some online search, Wikipedia defines activity center as any place that attracts people for shopping, working, studying, recreation, or socializing. There's other definitions out there. Primary commercial district of a city or town. Central business district of a city with office space, shopping, restaurants, nightlife, entertainment, or other features such as residential buildings, lively neighborhoods, mixed-use developments. What I'm getting at is by having that designation, whether we designate it to Johns Pass Village, has nothing to do with the vote tonight. I think we should have the ability to make that judgment at a later date when Johns Pass Village Activity Center comes back to us, and to Mr. Cantrell's point, and we have more public discussion on Johns Pass Village actually being an activity center. We were given a tally of a vote from Commissioner Taglerini from the neighborhood. I think that was referenced by Mr. Cantrell, and it substantially is against activity center. However, the question was proposed, are you in favor of passing the proposals, and I'll make it brief, which designates Johns Pass Village to 133rd Avenue as an activity center? It's not a valid question for tonight's agenda. I think that's fair.
Correct.
Other commissioners? My overwhelming concern is, I'll jump in next, is the fact that we have so many people that are against this and don't understand it. How about to fix this, we table this and put it on a ballot, put it out to the voters. That way, we're crystal clear. I'm just throwing that out there as a potential idea, that we have so many that are against it, and I'm assuming it's because they don't understand it, and that's okay that they don't, and the potential lack of communication that enough people weren't involved. And then, in the end, you have to look at it, if we have over 4,000 residents, and you had a public hearing, where could you have one that could hold 4,000 residents? Are we going over to Ray's Stadium? You know, so I think that would be just an option for us. Maybe put this on the ballot then. Or stop it here for a short amount of time. Let's have some more input from the residents. What I'm hearing is we need more input from the residents, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's just my 2 cents with this.
So we're not voting for an activity center. We're voting for a designation so that activity center, just like Vice Mayor said, is a very loose term in how it could be used in many different areas. All we're doing today is voting to add that ordinance to designate what the definition of an activity center is. The whole activity center dispute, that isn't even what we're talking about today. That's for another day. It's for another meeting and town hall for the residents who did not attend all of the previous meetings, and there were many meetings in regards to that, but it is not what we're voting on.
Oh, and I understand that
Yeah.
completely, but they're saying no on what we're doing tonight is
But
what.
they think we're voting on the activity center, not the definition and designation of that in our ordinance. We're not, there's no property tied to this.
Exactly. So then there's confusion, lack of communication, lack of understanding. I think that we should try to clear that up, is all I'm asking.
I mean, my opinion is that by voting to add this, and we discussed this in our workshop, by voting to add this and to move forward with having the activity center designation in the ordinance, once that is in place is when then we can start whatever. Maybe somebody comes and wants an activity center put, I don't know, on 150th, who knows where that would be, but we're not doing that today. And I think that when that time comes that we revisit the activity center, I think everyone up here agrees and understands that the community needs to have the opportunity again to become involved instead of, it's easy to fill out a survey online because they don't know what they're voting for. And I think most people believe that we are voting for the activity center, of which we are not. And to be able to move forward to voting for an activity center or even get into that, I believe we have to pass this.
Yes, that
Yes.
is correct.
To even have that discussion, so, and this just gives you more tools in your toolbox.
Yes, that's correct. This is only the definition, and this definition goes in the comprehensive plan, not tied to any property at this
We can have the discussion on advantages and disadvantages of actually creating an activity center at a later date. We're just putting the tools in the toolbox so that we can talk about it later.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-15, Comprehensive Plan Activity Center definition.
City Clerk, or we need a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
No.
The motion carried 3-1.
All right, next up is ordinance 2023-17, amendment to purchasing ordinance.
I'll read that ordinance. Ordinance 2023-17, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Article 5, Purchase and Contracts of Chapter 2, Administration of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Madeira Beach to provide for the deletion of the words City Commission and replacement with the words Board of Commissioners in Sections 2-191B and 2-193-3B thereof, to provide for the deletion of Sections 2-193-3C and 2-194 of the code relating to personal and professional service contracts, to provide for conflict, to provide for severability, and to provide for an effective date. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-17 by title only.
Thank you. Do we have public comment on this? Commissioners?
So again, is this strictly a clerical update? You're replacing the term city commission with board of commissioners in two different sections?
And there are two other things that are happening in this ordinance. The other two things that are happening is that we're deleting the sentence, which is subparagraph C of section 2-193-3 in its entirety. And then we're also deleting the entire section 2-194.
Yes, that dealt with the professional services having to go out on bid versus you could just hire whomever, for lack of a better term. So then, public comment on this? Commissioners?
Have we discussed this in the workshop?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've got the original ordinance, which was in the packet, if that would be helpful for you to take a look at.
Oh, it's just that in the packet here, it doesn't have there's two chapters that have been deleted.
That's correct, and because of the fact that we're trying to save paper,
I get it.
yeah, in section 3 of the ordinance and in section 4, those are where it says where the deletions are. So when when Muni Code gets this ordinance, they don't have to have 3 or 4 pages of material. They'll just look for that subparagraph C and it will be deleted. Or they'll look for section 2-194, it'll be deleted. It's not regurgitated in this ordinance, but it's definitely referenced.
And they both pertain, just to be clear, to the language in the paragraphs of personal and professional service contracts as provided. That's subparagraph C of section 2-1933, personal and professional service contracts, as provided in section 2-194. 2-194 is completely eliminated or stricken from the code. And again, that one spoke about you did not need essentially to bid out contracts and agreements for professional services to include architectural, engineering, legal, landscaping, surveying, mapping, et cetera. So now that will be removed from the code, so they fall back on the city's, on our purchasing ordinance. Anything greater than 5,000 up to 30,000 will require 3 quotes. Anything greater than 30,000 would require a bid, RFP, RFQ.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, do we have a motion?
Thank you for that clarification, Robin. So these sections are covered in different.
They're
in the
listed
other-
in the ordinance, they're just not included up there.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-17, amendment to the purchasing ordinance.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, I guess City Attorney, you're up next.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So we have two quasi-judicial hearings tonight. The first one is item G, redevelopment planning application, RDV 2023-01. And I have to go through a couple different things based upon the code we have. First of all, the summary of the application. This redevelopment planning application, RDV 2023-01, requests authority to replace an existing legally non-conforming duplex with a new duplex. The redevelopment process in Section 110-97 allows for property owners to apply to replace an existing legally non-conforming residential structure with a new structure at the same density with an approved redevelopment planning application. RDV 2023-01 is located at 321 BOC Drive here in Madeira Beach. The standards to be applied in your review are those set forth in Section 110-97, which Andrew will go over with you. The burden of proof in the case is the greater weight of the evidence is set forth in Section 2-10 of your code. The parties in this case, by the way, there are no notices of intent to be an affected party that have been received by the city. So the parties are just Michael Kamenoff and 321 Bogosiega LLC, which is the applicant. The order of presentation will be with the applicant making the presentation first, and then the city will. With that, I'm going to go ahead and read the quasi-judicial procedures. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Commissioners acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In this quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicants failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. At this point, I need to ask all the commissioners whether or not that there has been any ex parte communications between the applicant and any of the commissioners here, and if so, I need you to state that. Any ex parte contacts?
Negative.
Okay.
No.
All right, then I also need to make sure and ask you whether or not there are any conflicts of interest that you need to disclose. No?
Negative.
No.
All right. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and swear in the witnesses. Anyone that's going to speak on this agenda item, if you could stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath. Is the applicant here? Okay, if you could stand up, sir, raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the applicant, sir, it's now your time to proceed. So if you can step to the podium, tell us what your name is, and make your presentation.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. I'm Michael Kamenoff. I'm the owner of 321 Bogosiega Drive. And because of our existing duplex is on a non-conforming lot, and we're considering a substantial improvement to the lot, we want to demo and build a new 3-story duplex, compliant with current floodplain regulations. We've had to go in front of the Planning Commission. They've approved that. Now we're in front of the Board of Commissioners. And we agreed to greatly improve the property using proper setbacks, lot coverage, proper height for R2 zoning requirements.
Anything else, sir?
That would do it.
Okay, if you could stand right there. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant? Now would be the time to ask those questions. Vice Mayor, did you have a question?
Just that the building, all your plans and permits have been approved other than just getting your variance?
Yeah, we haven't,
You haven't gotten to that
haven't
point?
gone through any of that. Now we
Okay,
need to get the
okay.
approval first.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now would be time for staff to make a presentation.
Good evening. I'm going to just keep this brief and go through the background and discussion on this one. It's a legally non-conforming duplex located at 321 BOC Regular Drive. The existing duplex was built in 1959 and does not meet the currently required minimum lot size for a duplex and is considered legally non-conforming since construction of the duplex predates establishment of the current zoning requirements. The duplex may be built back to the same density through the approval of a redevelopment plan, Section 110-97. Redevelopment planning process as outlined in the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances needs to be approved before the demolition of the existing structure. Redevelopment plan is heard at the local planning agency, planning commission, and the board of commissioners. The local planning agency voted to support RDV 2023-01 moving forward to public hearing May 10th, 2023 at this board of commissioners meeting. Board of commissioners can approve with conditions, deny, or change a redevelopment plan. The redevelopment planning process allows for duplexes on non-conforming lots to be rebuilt to the existing density if the new structure complies with the required front setback, height, parking requirements, and floodplain regulations effective at the time of building permit application. An approved redevelopment plan allows the new structure to be built within the existing side and rear setbacks. The applicant included conceptual plans of the proposed duplex. The proposed duplex meets the required front rear setbacks in the R2 zoning district and retains the existing 5-foot side setbacks. The proposed duplex meets the restrictions related to building surface lot coverage and impervious surface ratio. The proposed duplex meets the height restrictions in the R2 zoning district. The proposed duplex must meet all applicable floodplain regulations. The conceptual plans do not represent what the final site plan will look like for the duplex. The applicants for the proposed duplex will still need to apply for a building permit. Staff recommends approval of RDV 2023-01. Attached to the memo is the application, the conceptual plan, property appraiser information to show that it is a 2-unit, it is a duplex, and then the 300-foot public notice that was sent out to property owners within 300 feet of the property, and it was also posted down there and at City Hall and the library and on the website listed on the notice. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this application.
Are you asking the city to receive into evidence your staff report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to city staff?
What's your recommendation?
Staff supports that it's replacing an existing duplex with another duplex. That's going to be FEMA compliant and a good improvement over what exists there currently.
Any other questions? Okay, so now would be the opportunity for anybody in the public that wants to speak on this application, step forward, state your name and address, and make your presentation. Anyone from the public want to address this application? There being no one from the public, Mayor, it is now back before the commission for consideration and approval of the application. And that would just be done by motion.
Okay, do we have someone that can make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the redevelopment planning application RDV 2023-01.
We have a second.
I second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kerr?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Enjoy you in your home, sir. Okay, City Attorney, you're up again.
Thank you, Mayor. This is item number H. It's 2 COP alcoholic beverage license application number 2023-04. This is Lilith's Sugar Shack LLC. This is also a quasi-judicial hearing. I need to go through a couple of things before we get to the presentations. First of all, a summary of the application. Pursuant to Land Development Code, Article 6, Division 6, alcohol beverages, the applicant for APB 2023-04 is requesting authorization from the Board of Commissioners for the approval of a 2 COP alcoholic beverage license with the intent to sell beer and wine for consumption on premises. And it's Lilith's Sugar Shack at 121 129th Avenue East here in Madeira Beach. This establishment is in the C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District and the Commercial General Future Land Use. As required in Section 110-359, the notice of public hearing was properly sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property 15 days prior to the scheduled consideration for tonight. Such notice has also been posted on the property. The standards to be applied are the ones that are going to be gone over by city staff. They're set forth in Section 110-532 relating to alcoholic beverage licenses. The burden of proof is the greater weight of the evidence is set forth in Section 2-10 of your code. The parties tonight are going to be the applicant, Lilith's Sugar Shack LLC, and obviously the city. There are no notices of intent to be affected parties that have been received by the city. The order of presentation would be the applicant first. I'm going to go ahead and read those quasi-judicial hearing procedures again. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Commissioners acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At this quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In this quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at this hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. I need to ask each one of you, have you had any ex parte contacts with the applicant that you need to disclose?
Negative.
No.
Okay, are there any conflicts of interest that need to be disclosed?
Negative.
No.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and swear in the witnesses. Is the applicant here tonight? Okay, if you want, raise your right hand, and city staff, you've already been sworn in, you don't need to be sworn again. You swear the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Sir, it's your turn to make a presentation to the commission. If you'd step forward, state your name and address, and make your presentation.
Hello, my name's Dustin Griffin, 13246 4th Street East. And just rented this location down in Johns Pass. It was formerly the Sandbar, which had a COP 2 license selling ice cream and beer and wine and adult floats and children's floats. And we're establishing a very similar business there, selling ice cream, coffee, hopefully beer and wine, and smoothies. And we haven't opened up officially yet, but we'll be opening here really soon, I hope, within the next couple weeks. And getting the building cleaned up and ready to go, and I hope we can get this approved.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now would be the time for city staff to make a presentation.
Just a little bit of background info. Pursuant to Land Development Code, Article Division 6, alcohol beverages, the applicant for ABP 2023-04 is requesting authorization from the Board of Commissioners for the approval of a 2 COP alcoholic beverage license with the intent to sell beer and wine for consumption on premises at Lilith's Sugar Shack at 121 129th Ave East, Madeira Beach, Florida 33708. This establishment is in the C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District and has commercial general future land use. as required in section 110-539. The notice of public hearing was properly sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property 15 days prior to the schedule of consideration by the Board of Commissioners. Such notice has also been posted on the subject property, and in your packet, I have the notice and the picture of where it was posted and the mailing list. The next section, the discussion, it goes through the, when considering the alcohol beverage application, the Board of Commissioners shall consider the following factors, and these are the factors. The extent to which the location and extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. Little Sugar Shack is in the C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District. This zoning district's purpose is to recognize the unique commercial, marine, tourist, and historic value of John's Pass Village. A cafe that sells beer and wine is an allowed use in the C1 zoning district and fits the character of the existing neighborhood. Previous tenant at this location had a 2 COP alcoholic beverage license. The proposed alcohol beverage license use is compatible with the zoning district and would not adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. The next factor to look at is the extent to which traffic generated as a result of the location of the proposed alcoholic beverage request will create congestion or present a safety hazard. In the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, section 110-954, special parking areas reduces the parking requirements by 50% for properties within the C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District. The applicant listed 3 parking spaces and is installing a multi-stall bike rack. Bike racks are equal 3 parking credits. This makes the parking spaces count a total of 6 spaces. Location would serve customers via a walk-up window and have seating on property. The proposed alcohol beverage license use will not create congestion or present a safety hazard. Whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the particular location for which it is proposed. This establishment is not located within 300 feet of a church, synagogue, temple, or place of religious worship, public or private school operated for the instruction of minors, or youth recreation community center. Little Sugar Shack is in C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District, which is a commercial focused district as a mix of businesses for both residents and visitors. Other nearby businesses sell alcohol within the zoning district. This location was previously approved for an alcohol beverage license. The proposed alcohol beverage license use would be compatible with location. Whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect the public safety. The proposed alcohol beverage license use would not adversely affect public safety. This location, as stated previously, had an approved alcoholic beverage license. The proposed alcoholic beverage license would be the same type of alcoholic beverage license as to what was previously approved. The proposed alcoholic beverage license use would be a similar level of use to what was previously approved. The applicant has no outstanding fines or penalties owed to the city under any section of the code. Just go to staff recommends the approval of 2 COP alcoholic beverage license application 2023-04 with stated intent to sell beer and wine for consumption on premises at Little Sugar Shack with the following conditions. Condition 1, alcohol must be consumed on property. And condition 2, any alterations of the building requires a building permit. Attached to the memo is the application, and I include the state application also, the public notice mailing and posting, and also the survey from the previous application. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
You want to tend to your staff report into evidence?
Yes.
Okay, any questions from the commission?
I'd just like to point out that John's Pass Village is not a wet zone, so we have to make sure that we have the staff conditions placed into any motion.
Correct, that's correct. Okay.
Because I do not see any seating on the package.
That will have to be addressed when they do their building permit, if they're going to make changes to it. If not, it will be addressed by way of the approval of this particular application.
Want to make sure the applicant realizes this packaged goods is not what this is all
I think
about.
it's a really good point to make that. If there are no other questions, is there anyone from the public that wishes to address this application? Okay, there being no one from the public, Mayor, it's back to the commission for consideration and approval by motion. And just like the vice mayor had stated, it's going to be important when you make your motion to include the two conditions that were referenced in staff recommendation.
Okay, do we have any other commission comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the two COP alcoholic beverage license application, ABP 2023-04, with the following conditions. As staff provided, alcohol must be consumed on property, and any alterations of the building requires a building permit.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, we call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
We hope your business prospers, sir. Okay, next up is item 10A, Resolution 2023-04, Emergency Operations Plan.
And Mayor and Commission, as we presented and discussed at the last workshop, this is our emergency operations plan update for the next, well, at least for the next year, but through 2025. We do review it every year, particularly prior to the start of hurricane season, and really no significant changes other than ensuring we have the proper contact information and locations. I don't know if the fire chief had anything else to add.
Any public comment?
Mayor, I need to read this resolution by title only. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So this is Resolution 2023-04, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, providing for the adoption of the City of Madeira Beach Emergency Operations Plan dated May 10, 2023, and providing for an effective date. That was reading Resolution 2023-04 by title only.
Is there any public comment now? Sorry for the error. Commissioners? Can we make a motion then?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-04, Emergency Operations Plan 2023-20 through 25.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Okay, letter B, Bravo now, Resolution 2023-05.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Resolution 2023-05, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the Board of Commissioners Policy Handbook, repealing Resolution 2022-05, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of Resolution 2023-05 by title only.
Okay, is there any public comment? The only change in the book is we've changed it from 3 minutes to 5 minutes, and there can be an open exchange of information, and usually the mayor will talk back and forth, and if we don't have the answers, we'll get them for you. Commissioners, any questions? Do we have a motion then?
Well, I'd just like to point out that the addition of the, to complete a comment card as.
Correct.
As
If-
on
if-
the front page of the agenda package.
That is correct. If that's how we're going to make contact with you, by completing a public comment card with an email address, phone number, so there's an open line of communication back and forth, that things just don't drop into a black hole. We don't want that. It makes everybody unhappy. Okay, so you've made the motion then, sir?
I'd like to make a motion. Where are we?
10B.
To approve Resolution 2023-05, Board of Commissioner Policy Handbook.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
City Clerk, we call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes, and I'd like to
Motion
thank
carried 4-0.
I'd like to thank the commissioners for their assistance on this. Thank you. Next is Special Magistrate lien. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet is a memorandum from me dated March 28, 2023. This is a memorandum that I drafted asking your authorization to accept a $5,000 settlement offer from the property owner of 14033 East Parsley Drive here in Madeira Beach. On October 28, 2022, the special magistrate found the subject property in violation of Section 14-70, which is general maintenance of the home, and imposed a fine in the amount of $250 a day when the property remained in noncompliance. The property was brought into compliance on March 5th, 2023, and subsequent to that, I received a request to settle the outstanding lien. The lien amount as of the date of the memo that I provided to you on March 28th was $25,641.77. I'm asking for your authority to accept a $5,000 settlement offer to release that lien.
Public comment on this? Commissioners?
I think we discussed it at our workshop meeting, and we all agreed that this was a fair settlement.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve the special magistrate lien at 14033 East Parsley Drive, Madeira Beach, case number 2021.1296, Murray,
Do we have a second?
For $5,000.
Yes.
for $5,000, yes.
Do we have a second?
Yes, I second.
Thank you. City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kerr?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11, contracts and agreements. We have anything there, City Manager? Thank you. New business. We have anything there? Was that a no?
Right here.
Four items under new business.
Okay.
We have four items under new business.
Yes.
Excuse me. A resolution 2023-06, approving the nomination of the Barrier Islands Governmental Council to nominate Reddington Beach Mayor David Will as the Big C's representative to the Forward Pinellas Board.
And I'll read that resolution by title only, Mayor. This is Resolution 2023-06, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, nominating Reddington Beach Mayor David Will as the city's representative to Forward Pinellas and providing for an effective date. There was a reading of Resolution 2023-06 by title only.
Is there any public comment? Is there any commission comment?
I've sat through many of the Big C meetings and respect Mayor Will, and I think he's a great choice.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-06, nominating Reddington Beach Mayor David Will as the city's representative to Forward Pinellas.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Kerr?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Okay, next is appointment to the Civil Service Commission.
Here's Mayor and Commission. We have one applicant to the Civil Service Commission, Jerry J. Cantrell, and Mr. Cantrell's here in the audience.
Would you like to come up and speak to us, sir? We'd appreciate it.
My knees are giving out. I don't think I need my address, but just in case, Jerry Cantrell, 13322 First Street East. I know the Civil Service Commission is a lot of human resource decisions, looking at things to do with employees. Definitely working through Mr. Gomez, we're getting information back to the board. Again, I can go through everything I said before, but in this capacity, I have well over 20 years experience working in administrative level positions to where I actually had to involve human resources and at times legal advice to figure out how to handle different employee type situations. So I think I could work very well at doing this. I hope you guys will accept my application. Anybody have questions?
Please.
I just have one question. So when I reviewed your application, I noticed that where it asked if you were available for daytime meetings, you checked yes and no.
Because it is yes and no.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking is because I do think that you'd be a fantastic volunteer for that commission. But my question, or my reasoning in asking is that the majority of the meetings, actually all but one since 2018, were held during the day. They are generally held 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And just to make sure that there wouldn't be, I mean, we all have some conflicts, but that wouldn't be a huge conflict for you to attend.
It won't be. It's easier in the summer, it's easier on the holidays, things of that sort, but it's the vacations. But
And-
it is possible for me to request personal time. So it's
Okay,
not-
so they don't meet that often. They've only had 2 meetings this year. They had 6 in 22, 1 in 21, 1 in 20, 5 in 19, and 9 in 2018. And in 2018, they were having meetings over employee dispute. So it's not a whole lot of meetings, so I think that when they have them, it's important to attend.
Understood.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? We're good?
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Yeah.
So make a motion?
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve Jerry Cantrell as the next person to serve on the Civil Service Commission.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kerr?
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Welcome, sir. Okay, item C, we've already addressed that earlier. Now we're down to D, appointing a commission representative for the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council.
So Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council is an association of local governments and gubernatorial representatives that coordinates the regional planning in the Tampa Bay metro area. The city of Madeira Beach is a member government of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. The council's bylaws require an elected commissioner to serve as a member of the council. The Madeira Beach BOC will need to appoint a commission representative. The commissioner that is appointed will need to attend council meetings. And attached in your packet is the schedule for the upcoming council meetings. I believe that the next meeting is June the 12th. You can see this on page 301 of your packet. June the 12th, August 14th, October 9, and December 11 for the rest of the year. We do pay annual dues. It's $2,000 a year, and those have been paid through September 2023.
Commissioners?
I'd like to submit Anne Marie Brooks as our representative, if she would accept.
Well, I did have some discussion with Robin on what being a part of this would entail, and I checked my calendar to make sure that I would be able to attend those Monday meetings, and I can. So I would accept that responsibility.
Then I would like to make a motion to appoint Anne Marie Brooks as our designated commissioner.
I second that.
City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Kerr?
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Staff reports.
There are none.
Great. All right, agenda setting for the May 24th workshop.
Just one clarification, item B, we will bring to you the Gulf Beaches Public Library budget for their next fiscal year.
Okay. And then I see Ms. Rowan, she took care of getting this the insurance advocate presentation. Thank you. We appreciate that. And then engineering of record extension.
We have 1 year left, I believe, in the engineer of record, and so as we discussed last time, we are proceeding with the RFQ, but to keep project continuity, we need to approve this, and then at such time that we receive the RFQs, we can make the change.
Okay. And then we have the densities and intensities consistent with Pinellas Forward. And then the land development regulations, city master plan, campaign signs, yard, city manager's monthly report.
Yeah, and anything else you'd like to add?
Let's see, do we need to add anything else to the agenda?
I don't have anything.
When do you want to bring up the Tom and Kitty Stewart Park? Do you want to put that on here to let's start the
Sure,
conversation?
we can add it.
Okay, let's put that on the agenda then. And then, any other additions?
I did mention about sprinklers on the common area on Lillian in the Teardrop Park. I don't know if that's something we want to put on here, or is it something that I think Public Works is going to look into, and we can put that on a future agenda? We can put that on a future agenda.
Okay. We have any reports or correspondence, Board of Commissioners, City Attorney, City Manager, City Clerk?
So I'd like to talk about something.
Oh, please.
So recently, and I'm not sure how to speak it or say it, or we recently received an email from the past vice mayor in regards to election complaints and things along those lines. And there was things attached to the email that it was pictures of this and pictures of that, and it was, we all know what it said. We all got the email. And I want to make a comment on it. My comment is that when I decided that I would run for city commissioner, and I was asked, what are you running on? I said, I want the city to get along. I want it to be a good place for people to be. I don't want all this bickering and fighting. I'm not a fan of all the lawsuits that go on in our city, or even the beaches up and down in general. And I would ask if we could find some way to find resolution in regards to this, because as we sit here today, we won the election. And I just believe that in my heart, it would be best for the city if we could find a way, and I don't know what that is because I'm not the affected party, but if we could find a way to move on from this, I think if the city were indeed, and I don't know for sure, but if the city were indeed to have to provide the legal representation to defend a past sitting commissioner, vice mayor, it's not money well spent in my mind. So I'm just asking if we could find some way to resolve this, and maybe it would be a step in bringing the city together in a different way and showing a different type of leadership that leads by drawing people together instead of separation.
Any other comments? I'll jump in for a second on this. I guess the biggest thing I want to say in regards to this is the easiest way to drop the ethics complaints, of which the evidence is substantial, is to have Mr. Andrews plead guilty. There is no, and actually the complaint is currently being escalated due to the fact that he has said it for the record and now put it in writing. If you don't do this, I'm going to do that. That is the exact definition of extortion. So no, the complaint's going to be escalated, but thank you for your concern. Any other comments? All right, where are we now? Okay, so we're on a new business. I lost my page. 3. Here we are. All right, so there's no other reports. I guess we're ready to adjourn? Okay, it is 7:34 PM. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for all that attended.